If I told you I had a guest who was a lieutenant in the Coast Guard, then you think, okay, great, fantastic, can't wait to talk to him. And if I told you I had someone who was a president of the Metro United Way, you go, okay, this ought to be cool. And if I told you that I had someone who is now the COO, the Chief Operating Officer for a company called GoodMaps, you would say, wow, this is impressive. Going to be three really great guests. Actually, that is one very talented person, and that is Theresa Reno-Weber, who joins me now. Theresa, welcome in.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Back in my old stomping grounds, actually.
There you go.
I was at Metro United or Metro Government for about 5 years under Mayor Fisher.
That's right. I was looking at your resume, and I just mentioned a few of your accomplishments.
Yeah.
My goodness, you are made to be a leader, number one, and you want to serve. You want to do things that have a mission. Talk a little bit about that.
That's true. I mean, I grew up in a family that had a long history of military service. So both of my grandfathers, my father, my uncles. So I was raised on that passion for your country, passion for giving back to others. I was a Girl Scout, got my Girl Scout Gold Award. So it has been embedded in me very young age to always leave a place better than you found it. And I love those types of challenges.
And I know this community means a lot to you, obviously. You know, the Metro United Way is something we all can relate to and hopefully give generously to. But let's talk about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
GoodMaps. A lot of folks don't realize this is really a global company that exists right here in Louisville, right?
That's exactly right. It was launched in 2019 out of a partnership with the American Printing House for the Blind. We are a for-profit company, though, and we are now in 8 countries around the world. And I often say the easiest way to think about GoodMaps is we are like Google Maps for the indoors. So that same type of confidence and reliability that we've all come to use for outdoor navigation apps to get from one point to another, even when we know how to get there, right? Because we want to game the system and get there as quickly as possible, shortest route possible. GoodMaps is that for the indoors. How do you, from the front door to the indoor destination of your liking, get there as quickly, as easily as possible? And if you're blind or low vision or you've got limited mobility, how do you do that with independence and confidence?
Okay, to help me understand this a little bit better, right now we are sitting in Metro Hall.
That's right.
We've got the mayor and a lot of dignitaries in and out of this building. So in this building specifically, how does it work, Theresa?
Yeah, so today, if you were to come to Metro Hall and you were able to download, which anyone who has an Android or an iPhone can download the GoodMaps app from your Apple Store or the Android store, and then you simply check in to Metro Hall, hold your phone up so that the camera on your phone can scan the space around you and identify, based on what's in the frame, your location, and then you just select your destination and it gives you turn-by-turn directions.
Okay. As the Chief Operating Officer, this sounds like a huge undertaking. We're talking all over the world, all of these buildings. So what is the ultimate mission? Is it to have every significant building operate through GoodMaps, or is it bigger than that?
I mean, we want to make sure that people really are able to enjoy the indoors with confidence and independence, right? We want to put the joy back in going somewhere that you're unfamiliar with. If you've never been to the Yum Center and you're coming from across the country or across the county and the Commonwealth and you are a little bit anxious about, am I going to find my seat? Am I going to find the bathroom? Am I going to find the accessible elevator? You can actually look at the Yum Center before you ever get there. Scan your routes, scan what's in the map and in the location in the venue, and then when you get there, put in your destination and get those turn-by-turn directions. So that, for one, is helping individuals have more confidence and independence as they navigate these spaces. We do want to map the world, the indoor world. Okay. And we want to be the forerunner in that on a global scale. And so right now, some of our biggest footprint is actually throughout England and the UK. We really started to see adoption in rail stations. And for anyone who's ever been to the UK, they use their public transportation and their rail a lot more heavily than we do in the US. And we're mapping 2 of the largest rail stations across the entire country of England.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big undertakings.
Huge.
So here locally, and specifically for the folks who are watching right now on Metro TV, you mentioned the Yum Center. And perhaps folks say, you know, I've been there, I know how to navigate the Yum Center. What would be a typical scenario when someone would want to go to and use what is available at GoodMaps? Would it be, I'm on vacation, maybe I'm going to Museum of Science, or whatever the case may be? Tell me about some of the scenarios.
Absolutely. So we've mapped a couple of cultural venues here in Louisville, for example. I mentioned the Yum Center, but we've also mapped the Fraser History Museum, the Science Center, Metro Hall, the Louisville Airport. And so as folks are coming in and they may say, oh, I've only got a half an hour, 45 minutes, I'm going to go to the Fraser History Museum and I want to see these 3 exhibits. How do I put them in and get there as quickly as possible? right? I always like to say, go check out the Jack Harlow exhibit. We'll get you right there the second you check into the Fraser History Museum. But if you are traveling, we've mapped the Portland Airport over in Portland, Oregon. So again, how much time is it going to take me to get from one gate to another? What's going to be along my route as I go to this other gate? Am I going to be able to pick up a coffee or a slice of pizza before I get to, my departure gate? So you're able to use that there. And then when I was in the UK recently meeting with some customers, I was in Liverpool, the home of the Beatles. I had never been there before. Got off the train platform, a massive train station with a mall associated with it. And I was able to look at our directory and see all the different stores and shops I might want to hit in the time that I was there before I had to make my meeting.
Wow. So I noticed your resume, and we talked about your experience in the military a little bit. So am I stretching it here by saying that I could see there being military applications with GoodMaps? If I'm going to a country and I need some intel on certain buildings, does that happen as well?
Not yet.
Okay,
We've definitely had some conversations, with the military. There's different applications in that space for sure. We've actually also had some early conversations with first responders here in the community. So if you think about it, somebody has a heart attack in an office building. How do you get EMS to that individual as quickly as possible? There's a fire in a building. How do you help people find the emergency exits as quickly as possible? We all know that there's, unfortunately in this day and age, other scenarios where that might also be very helpful to be able to direct first responders, whether it's police or fire EMS, directly to where somebody is, and then direct other people away from where somebody may be.
Interesting.
So we've had those conversations and those applications for folks, but really it requires the businesses in our community to say, we want our space to be mapped by GoodMaps. And not only do you then be able to turn on navigation for patrons of your space or for your employees, but we also give you that updated digital blueprint. So a lot of buildings, Metro Hall is probably one of them. I don't know. I don't want to throw our facilities teams underwater, but have outdated blueprints that don't reflect the changes that have happened over time in the space. And when GoodMaps comes into a building, we use a handheld LiDAR or laser scanner to create a very accurate current digital blueprint of the venue. And that data is owned by the customer, the building, or the venue themselves, and so they can use it for other things as well as the navigation that we enable.
Okay, I know that Mayor Greenberg loves GoodMaps for more than one reason, not only because it's used here in this building, but because he is really, one of his initiatives is to attract tech companies like GoodMaps, is to attract tech talent, and you're doing both of those. So talk about, for you, as the COO of GoodMaps, why Louisville? Why the association with Louisville? You mentioned the publishing house for the blind.
That's right.
Okay, but there's more to that, right?
Well, there's a lot there. There's a lot of layers. So American Printing House for the Blind, first of all, almost 175 years old as an organization. They are one of the most innovative organizations, I think, in the world in terms of what they do. I believe they produce about 80% of the world's Braille. And they've got some innovative tech coming out of there, and GoodMaps is proud to be one of the innovations that they've launched into the world. So that obviously is a part of our origin story and why we initiated here in Louisville, Kentucky. But we've also been able to attract phenomenal talent, both recruiting away from the speed school at U of L. We've got a lot of team members in GoodMaps who come right out of that program. They also have a fantastic GIS or geospatial group there that we've recruited a lot of our mappers and cartographers out of. And everybody is now coming to appreciate that you don't have to be on the coastlines to be a tech startup, a tech company, a tech global giant. I would say that GoodMaps is a premier indoor mapping and navigation company in the world. And again, we're doing that from Frankfurt Avenue, right down the street from here.
So you, Theresa, and of course GoodMaps, helping Louisville on a number of different levels. Before we go, for those who have watched this and say, okay, I need GoodMaps, I'm getting ready to make a trip, or I'm going into an unfamiliar building, again, how do they access that?
Yes, so if you search on your App Store app for GoodMaps Indoor Navigation, you can download it for free. And then you can scan the directory to see the different locations and buildings. We've got about 180 different buildings around those 8 countries that I mentioned that are currently mapped. And all it takes is a building or a venue to say, yes, we want GoodMaps here, and we are glad to come out. So if you're someone who is a patron of a restaurant, a store, a facility you're traveling to, an airport that doesn't have it and you want it, shoot them a little note and let them know to give us a call, because we would be more than happy to have them be a customer in the future.
An innovative company with an innovative leader. That is Theresa Reno-Weber. Theresa, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. If you want to put an instant smile on someone's face in this community, just talk about the Kentucky Derby Festival. There are many reasons. We're very proud of it. And this man is responsible, and he is the big cheese. He is the president of the Kentucky Derby Festival. He is Matt Gibson. Matt, welcome in.
Thanks for having us.
I am so excited to have you here because off camera, had a brief conversation. I said, you have brought a new energy. We're taking it to another level. But yet you think, okay, that means corporate and dollars, but yet it's still the communities, isn't it?
It is. As you and I talked, when you say that you are the festival for the community at large, you better be able to back that up. And when I stepped in, and I always say I have the best job on the planet, and I really do, it's this time of year that really makes it all worth it. And we can see those smiles on the community, whether we've been downtown, whether it was our block party in West Louisville, or all of the events coming up over the next handful of days. You see people turning out in droves. We're seeing such excitement on people's faces, and that makes it all worth it.
You know, when we think about the Kentucky Derby Festival, I think a lot of people think about the steamboat race and thunder, and there's so many different events. We can go on, the parade, et cetera. So give me some numbers here, if you would, Matt. How many events, how many volunteers, what are we talking?
So I think in my comments at the Day Off Luncheon on Friday, we were somewhere around 60, and that was just a few days ago. And that was yet to go, 60 yet to go. I would say that since then we've probably knocked off 4 or 5 big ones, and that momentum is constantly going where we're building venues, taking them down, and I'd say we have about 55, 54 more to go for 70 total.
And a lot of volunteers involved as well.
Oh my gosh, that is the neatest thing about this town, is that volunteer spirit. Those people who come out and do it for the right reasons. And my staff and I are paid, and we've got board of directors who are there, and part of their mission on the board, they have to be there standing in the rain, standing in the cold, getting cooked by the sun, sometimes all in the same day. But there's this army of volunteers who come out and just make it so magical. That's one of the reasons I've been doing it for so long. I thought I would do it for 3 or 5 years when I started as an event manager a long time ago. And it is the people who come out and make it happen with us that just keeps me going. 26 years now.
As a member of the community, I always think about all the fun and the family fun and the memories. But for you and the mayor, Mayor Greenberg, I know, Matt, that you have to consider also economic impact.
That's exactly
right.
right.
People come in for Derby, but if you can keep them here in Louisville and let them get a taste of Louisville and what we're all about, and the Kentucky Derby Festival is the hook.
It really is.
Let's talk a little bit about the economic impact and people coming from out of town. That's important as well, right?
It really is. And we are going through the big research project currently through this festival, leading up one of the largest we've done, about 140,000 touches so far. And it is about making sure that economic impact is staying strong and what it looks like in the future. And Mayor Greenberg kind of threw down a gauntlet to a lot of community leaders about 10 months ago that said, with 150 coming up, it's an opportunity we cannot miss. That is, we're going to do it bigger than we've done in the past. You've been in this town a long time and know how big of a statement that is. So everyone started to lean in, and I tell you, it really was reinvigorating for a lot of us to make sure that it isn't taken for granted, because while we may do it every day, some people don't experience it except that time of year. And from the economic impact standpoint, we're about $127 million economic impact for just the period that we run our events. That's not counting what our friends at Churchill do. We're very cautious about splitting those dollars. And it really is a big impact that helps pave a lot of roads, buy a lot of cop cars, contribute to education all throughout the state, and even state legislators that we talk to and representatives that aren't in this community can feel the impact from the work that we do, and that's what it's all about.
And Matt, if you're from Austin, Texas, then you probably think South by Southwest. Or,
yes, great.
You know, you think about Mardi Gras and some of the other festivals around the country. But this one is unique, and I think that's a fine line. I don't know how you do it, but you've done it very well. Yes, it is nationally known, but on the other hand, it also still feels like the community owns it. And that's a tough, how do you do that? That's tough to articulate, but how do you keep it the communities, but by the same token, make it accessible to the world?
Well, the great thing is when we talk about our peers in the industry, it's those that you mentioned and a few others by size. We are the only ones that are in those conversations that are the not-for-profit, and it is really about community and accessibility because most of our events are free. I mean, not many places you can go and buy one ticket like a Pegasus pen and use it multiple times. Concerts don't like that when you do that. Movie theaters don't like that when you do that, but we take such pride in making it accessible to the community and to be world-renowned. I mean, to travel and talk about things, people know about Thunder. It's one of the best attended road races during the season. We're one of the earliest in the entire calendar, and people do like our product, and it's not just around here. I mean, you can meet people. I think all 50 states are represented this year in the GE Appliances Mini Marathon. If you look at what was here just this last weekend for Thunder, people all over the country, and you run into them in the elevator or on the street, because even though we like to say we blend in these jackets, they can find you. They can find you, and it's neat to hear that feedback.
Yeah, and you deserve that feedback. I want to talk about 150. We said, this is a special year. And for you, it's like throwing gas on the fire. The adrenaline rush may be just a little bit bigger. Do you feel any additional responsibility this time of year? You and Mike Anderson of Churchill Downs, I mean, there's got to be a synergy that exists.
It really does. He and I talk often. We were talking late last night with the mayor just about what a neat relationship it is for us to kick it off and then to hand it to them, who we know are going to finish it off in world-class style, just like they always do. And as a longtime attendee there, for the partnership and the strength of what it is so neat to be a part. And they say the same about us. They spoke to our board recently and said sometimes theirs feels easy because it's within the walls of Churchill Downs, and they may have 300,000 folks. By my calculations, where we currently are, we will have hosted, prior to even their numbers, about 1.3 million people in that time frame leading up to, and it really is all a celebration about that horse race. There is not a Derby festival, Kentucky Derby Festival, without the Kentucky Derby, and we are very mindful of that, and we love being stewards of that lead-up celebration of what this is all about.
Well, I know Mike Anderson and his team have the same respect for you and what you do.
Great partners.
Yeah, you add excitement to that 2 minutes, and you make it an entire 2 weeks, which is quite the task.
It really is.
Okay, so personally, I'm curious. You're attending all these events. You knew the question was coming. Some of your favorites, if there was someone from out of town, they're coming to Louisville, what events would you recommend they attend?
So I always get asked, Thunder's such a big one. I've in previous roles, I've always played such a big role, obviously do still. My favorite few, one of them is because it's what I grew up with, we were talking about before, is the Great Balloon Race. It is so iconic, and you don't see this in every community, to see those gorgeous balloons on that Saturday morning. Now we have 2 flights for L&N, Federal Credit Union Great Balloon Race, 2 glows down at the waterfront. What a great background. Some of the most beautiful, iconic images we have of that event now are down there. I'm a car guy, so our huge car show at Kroger's Festival on Sunday is one of my favorites. And then my all-time favorite, and will always be my all-time favorite, is the Great Bed Races. And that happens on next Monday of Derby Week. And if you want to get a great laugh, and you've been running at the pace that we are, the effort, the talent, the hard work that these teams put into those beds, and some have hydraulics. We've seen live fish bowls on these things. They have bubble makers. You leave and your face hurts from laughing so much. And we're there at Broadbent Arena, which is a great venue for it, and it sounds like they're cheering for NASCAR, and it's going to raise the roof. And it is an absolute blast.
Yeah, I have attended that. It has become uber competitive.
It has.
And it does speak to the community.
It does.
Because you get there and you know some of these guys.
You do.
And they are dead serious.
They are.
It's like you would think it's the Olympics. It's like, my goodness, they want to win.
You know, for years, some companies will hold time trials, and they will make people compete and work out so that they could beat. And we used to have a very even balance between the fun division and the competitive division. Like you say, they've been participating so long. We have so many of them in the competitive division because they're all vying for what isn't much more than one of those Lucite trophies, but it's the honor to say all year that they won the Great Bed Races. Yeah. And the crashes are great too, let's be honest. Let's be honest, the crowd loves the crashes.
Hey, if they can ham at the Indy, they can ham at the bed races. Okay.
That's exactly right.
Before I let you go, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because everyone, I hope you all enjoy the 150th Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Derby Festival, of course.
Yes.
But with that being said, Matt, what is your vision moving forward for the festival? Do you anticipate adding events, or how do you move forward with something that's already so renowned?
This is one I talk very passionately about. When I stepped in, research and data were very important to me. We started right before the pandemic hit to launch that, but right when the pandemic hit, we pulled back, and then wanted to give some recovery time to figure out what consumer preferences are going into the future. There are a lot of options, a lot more options than when we started, 60 plus years ago, and we want to make sure we're there in the future. And as I've discussed with my board and my staff and anyone, all of our partners, the future of it is going to come from the discussion with the community at large. What they want to see, what we're not doing, what we do well, what we don't do so well. The feedback that we can receive, and we'll go into a large discussion, big generative discussion and led discussion with our board in July of this year to come out with the long-range plan that will then start to roll out over the next handful of years. And the community will tell us what they want to see and what they want to have, because again, things change, and we have to make sure that we're there for the community for the next 100 years. That's my goal, for sure.
Well, on behalf of the entire community, thank you for what you do, Matt. I really appreciate it. And a recommendation for you, okay?
Yes, sir.
All this work you put in, when it's over, the Sunday after Derby, I hope you have a sifter of bourbon, and you can sit back and reflect and go, that was beautiful. It went well. And I think you're going to get that. That's coming.
Will. One of the things I love to do is spend time with my daughters, my dogs. I love to maybe wash one of my cars or mow the grass, because it is a pace in which it's hard to wrap your head around, but it includes sitting down and reflecting on all of this magical thing that we pulled off.
Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Matt Gibson, once again, the president of the Kentucky Derby Festival. As we all know, there are all kinds of amazing events that surround the fastest 2 minutes in sports. We're talking about the Kentucky Derby, of course, but none are more awe-inspiring, amazing, and just exciting. It is Thunder over Louisville, and this is the man responsible. He is Dr. George Zambelli. Dr. Zambelli, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure. It's the granddaddy of all fireworks displays, and we're happy to be part of it. This is our 34th year, and Louisville has become a hometown to me.
You are the first family of fireworks. So before we talk about your relationship with Louisville and Thunder over Louisville, tell me a little bit about your grandfather, Antonio. He started all this, didn't he?
Well, he immigrated from Italy in 1896, and back then fireworks wasn't a big industry, so he had to work in the steel mills through the night, and he toiled in fireworks in the day. And then his oldest son, Joe, joined him, and after World War II, my Uncle Lou joined him. My dad went to Duquesne University and grabbed onto the business and turned it into the enterprise it is today.
And if you've ever attended Thunder over Louisville, it is absolutely amazing, and it all happens here on 2nd Street Bridge. Of course, we're nice and calm right now, but things will change when George hits the stage and all the fireworks take center stage. Mr. Zambelli, I want to talk a little bit about some of the events you've done. Certainly, this is one of the most respected fireworks shows in North America, but you've worked for presidents, Elton John, Super Bowls. Talk about that.
It's been a great run. It's been a great life. When I was in the 10th grade, I did a fireworks show at the White House for President Kennedy, actually 2 months before he was assassinated. The first vehicle I ever drove was the White House tractor. We've done shows for the Pope 3 times, Super Bowls. I mean, it goes on and on.
Oh my goodness. Well, your relationship here in Louisville, you mentioned, it's been what, 35 years, did you say?
Well,
30, how many?
34 for us.
Okay, 34 years. Okay, so talk a little bit about how that began and how it's evolved, because not only has this show evolved, but fireworks in general have evolved as far as the technology, right?
Certainly have. Back in the day, my dad visited the first show, which was at the fairgrounds, and he met with Wayne and the other operatives, and talked to them about maybe doing the display down here on the riverfront and off the bridge. And every year, as soon as the show's over, we evaluate it again and how can we make it better next year. And you're going to find a lot of special effects that are coming off the bridge this year that you haven't seen before. There'll be a lot more activity, movement, and it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how every year there is a nuance, there's something different, and it always seems to be more exciting. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, you guys step up the game. So talk about a little bit about that technology and how do the Zambellis, you create some of this technology, right?
Well, we were the beta tester for Fire One, the computer system that we use, and we work with them annually to upgrade the software and some of the hardware devices, and we use the time machine, and the show is fired actually from signals from the satellite. So, every year you got to make it better.
Unbelievable. So tell me about some of the trends. What's happening in fireworks now? We hear a lot about, drones and different light shows and fireworks mixed in with light displays and all that. So from your vantage point, you're the expert. What will people see and how much technology is involved in today's fireworks shows?
Well, you're going to see a lot of different effects. Like I said, chases on the bridge. It's actually hard to describe. You got to see it, and we want everybody to watch it.
Dr. Zambelli, I would think this backdrop, this is unique for you as far as when you have water and the reflection and the bridges that you can, for lack of a better term, play with and have some fun and use them as tools. Is this unique for you and the Zambelli family?
Yes, it is. I mean, this is the #1 venue in the United States for fireworks.
Yay.
I mean, the bridge, in France they have the Eiffel Tower, and the effects are vertical. Here they're horizontal in a very vast area of the bridge. I mean, it's something.
I was talking to Wayne Hettinger, and of course he's your partner in all of this, and I was saying, what is the payoff for you? To me, what is the return on investment, or what feels good to you personally? And he mentioned, watching children and how they're just in awe of all of this. For you, I see you lighting up too. Do you feel the same way, George?
I definitely do. When I was young and I'd go to a fireworks display with my father, he often would turn away from the fireworks and look at the audience's faces, especially the children, the oohs and the ahs. That's what it's all about. Everyone loves fireworks. Sometimes the noise bothers them a little bit, but they're all children.
Yeah.
when they watch a fireworks display.
So the payoff for you is making people happy, and you certainly do it. Yes.
That's definitely it. I'm lucky because by day I can do cataracts, and by night I can do fireworks. So Mr. Jekyll and what is it, Dr. Hyde.
So you help me out there. So when I say Dr. Zambelli, so you are an eye surgeon, is that correct?
An ophthalmologist.
An ophthalmologist. Wow. So those really actually closely tie in, because if I'm going to enjoy fireworks, I want to see all the visuals and the colors and
the emotions. Sight, the feeling, the vibrations, the smell. It's all about fireworks.
On behalf of Louisville and the folks who are watching here, Metro TV, I want to thank you for what you've brought to Louisville, what you continue to bring. Now I want to talk about a little bit, fireworks aside, your thoughts on Louisville as a city, the people that you meet. We're certainly fans of yours. How do you feel about the city?
Oh, it's a great city, and I come here every year for 4 or 5 days during Thunder. There's hundreds of thousands of Louisvillians, I guess you could call
did.
it.
You got it right.
And just walking down the street, saying hello to people, everybody with a smile on their face, and hopefully the weather will be great. But even when it isn't, they're out there.
Oh yeah.
And it's a great city.
It's one of those, if not a bucket list, it's something that everyone wants to do. Family reunions revolve around this. Of course, it's the big, kickoff for the Kentucky Derby Festival as we prepare for the Kentucky Derby. Here's what I'm wondering here. From what I understand, your son Jared also in the business, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we can make a commitment right here. I want you to do this, if you would, Dr. Zambelli. that Thunder Over Louisville will continue for my grandkids, my great-grandkids, because your family continues on, and you're going to keep doing this, right?
We certainly are. Even my little grandson, Ryder, recently we brought his father, my son-in-law, on as president of the company. And when he heard that his dad was going to work for the company, he said to him, this was about a year ago when he was 6, he said, "Oh, you're going to be working with me." So he already feels that he's a part of the business.
Fabulous. No, like I said, on behalf of all of Louisville, and of course us at Metro TV, we certainly appreciate you. Thank you for what you bring to Louisville. And before we let you go, we said this was an exclusive interview, so we're going to prove it right here because you haven't heard this before, I promise. Okay, your nickname, I said Dr. George Zambelli, that's official, and tell everyone your nickname.
George Boom Boom Zambelli.
Boom Boom Zambelli. Very fitting. And of course, I hope you've enjoyed many Thunders Over Louisville, and they're going to continue to come, as Dr. Zambelli said, and we're very fortunate to have them. Once again, Dr. George Zambelli, Dr. George Boom Boom Zambelli.